Good afternoon, everyone. Kyle Kinney here at Royalwood. I'm with Janine Messina from Summit Broadband, who's been doing all of the community presentations, which we will continue to schedule more as we move our way through the Summit Broadband transition. A couple of quick things to know. Technically, the Comcast contract goes away April 1st. Summit Broadband is currently in with their construction team, dropping all of the fiber optic into the ground. And then after that occurs, what they're going to be doing is on the engineering side, they're going to be testing all of the feeds. So that process is still in place. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things that we know. I'm going to have Janine comment on those as we move through this video presentation. So Janine, after the engineering and construction have gotten all of the fiber optic basically in and ready for all of the units, whether it be a condo or a single family home, and the testing has been complete, that next phase is for them to actually bring it into the unit. Is that correct?
Correct. The first time we enter the unit is to bring the fiber in. The second time we enter the unit would be to do the light level testing to make sure that we have the correct levels on our fiber. The third time we enter the unit would be at the date and time that's picked by the resident, and that's when we'd actually switch them over from Comcast to Summit Broadband.
Okay. For the condo associations, when Summit needs to come on in and basically bring the fiber optic, what I'll call from the electrical room, up into the individual units, the coordination of that day and time, those are being done by the individual condo associations and the property management companies.
That's correct.
So owners don't need to basically make an appointment for that.
No, there's no appointment needed by the resident prior to the final installation when we're switching you over. Everything with getting the fiber in and testing is all handled by our construction team with the property management.
Okay. When it comes to single-family homes, because they don't necessarily have a property management company that coordinates that to bring the fiber optic into the individual homes, how's that going to work?
The single-family homes are a little different. We bring the fiber to the side of the home, and during the installation time, that's when we bring the fiber in. So it's a little bit lengthier of a process on the single-family homes. I know our installation team does try to reach out to some of the single-family homeowners prior to their scheduled installation date to see if we can get in and start that work ahead of time.
Okay.
But that's coordinated directly with our installers and the homeowner.
Okay. So remember that. So the only appointment that you need to be making, all right, is for that installation, which the schedule is now open from March 1st on, I believe.
Yes, it is from March 1st.
March 1st on, that's the only appointment that you all need to make. And that process is going to be connecting it and going live. And that process is going to be when the technicians are in your unit, I'm assuming an hour, hour and a half of some
It does
sort.
take a couple hours depending on how many boxes. Our Synergy, if you have the Synergy DVR, that installation will take a little longer because it's a very robust system. Depending upon how many additional boxes or how many questions the resident has for the technician would determine the length.
Okay. So at that point, when Summit comes in and they're actually doing the live install, okay, that will be the only time that you're without any Comcast feed, whether it be for TV and for internet. When Summit leaves and you basically sign off on everything, your feed, your internet will be live and all of your TV screens will be live, all set and ready to go. As a part of that, the Summit representatives will be more than happy to gather up any of the Comcast equipment that you have and tell you that this is what needs to be returned, whether it is to Comcast or CenturyLink, if they happen to have a CenturyLink box of some sort or whatever it might be, they'll tell you where that needs to be returned. Now, we do know that the local UPS office right down the street on Rattlesnake Hammock, right next to Little Caesars Pizza, they are a Comcast receiving UPS, which means they can take back your equipment and give you a receipt that you need to keep in your files. So that's going to be that process. Janine, Janine, we just talked about having Summit representatives on site here for owners that still need to come on in and fill out their service activation form. So that schedule, I understand, is going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays going forward, starting this coming Tuesday?
Starting this Tuesday.
Starting this coming Tuesday, there'll be a Summit representative here from 9 to noon and 1 to 3, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So feel free to stop up to the club. We'll have a location for them to be sitting and assisting you with doing the service activation request, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people have been going online to the link and booking their appointments. Will the service reps have a laptop that they can go online right there?
Yes, the representative here can absolutely schedule your appointment. We do have about 300 appointments already scheduled. Like you said earlier, the contract does end April 1st, so if you're here now, you definitely want to get your installation appointment scheduled. We do need a service form back from every resident, even if you're only taking the bulk services. We do need to set up an account because you do get one HD box included. If you've already sent this form in and you have your appointment scheduled, there's nothing left for you to do. You're all set. My team will contact you to confirm your installation appointment, make sure that you didn't want to change anything you've already signed up for, and you're set. If you have any questions or want to make changes or even want to bring down your Comcast bill, my representatives here would be more than happy to go over apples to apples with what you currently have and what you're getting going forward.
Okay.
So they can show you that.
So some people might be a little confused on what they might ultimately want. So on the day of install, for example, if they decided they wanted to upgrade, would the equipment or the extra box, whatever it might be, would that happen to be on the truck, for example, if they wanted to go ahead and do that?
If it's an extra box here or there, absolutely. If the resident wanted 4 additional boxes and that wasn't on the original service order, the technician might need to come back because he wouldn't have that much equipment.
Okay.
But if somebody wanted a wireless router and they didn't have it on their sheet, most likely the technician could accommodate.
Would that be the same if they decided at the day of install that they've decided they do want Summit broadband telephone, for example? Would they be able to program that?
The telephone,
on that?
absolutely not. The telephone, it takes about 7 days for a previous carrier, whether it's CenturyLink or Comcast, to release the number over to Summit. So we do need a couple of days' notice. If you have a Comcast phone number, you will definitely need to move your phone number to either Summit or CenturyLink or wherever you wanted to move it to, but you do need to move it to another provider. You would definitely want to give us that information prior to your installation. If you don't give us that information prior to your installation, I would suggest moving your installation out because once your installation's done, your phone will no longer work.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that we have your current account number and your current carrier so that we can move it over on the date of the installation.
Okay.
So that way it's seamless and everything's working perfectly.
So telephone service can't be done on the spot. So that decision needs to be made in advance that you've decided that you're going to move it over to Summit Broadband. They need 7-day advance notice at minimum and to start to make that happen for the transition. If you are in the process of doing that and you decided to do that, critically, you do not cancel your phone service until Summit has gone live on your telephone service. That's the only way that the telephone number can be transported over and not lost. So that's really, really important for you to go ahead and think about that process. If you have any questions, obviously, come in Tuesday and Thursday and see a Summit representative as far as that is concerned. So, all right, let's talk about internet service.
Okay.
We're providing the 100 by 100 speed. The things to be considered, I understand, is from Summit Broadband, you can lease a router from Summit Broadband, $9.95 a month, I believe.
$9.99 a month, right?
Okay, so the upside to doing that leasing is that if there's any problem going forward with the router, and it's a Summit Broadband router, they will roll a truck, make the repairs, and there's no charge.
Right, it includes maintenance, support, and replacement. So if you never want to know where your router is and what it does and how to access it, rent one of ours and we'll take care of everything for you.
There are routers out there that people do. They purchase them on their own. There's a wide variety of routers out there. As far as I know, there isn't anything of a router that Summit has told us that won't work. So, but what we do know is if you have a Comcast router or you have a CenturyLink router, you need to make a decision on what router you need to go forward, right?
Right. Also, if you have a combo modem router combo that you've purchased and are currently using in your home, that will no longer work. You need a standalone wireless router. We suggest if you're going to go to the store and purchase one, to purchase an AC type router that can handle the faster speeds that we're providing.
I had some people just recently, and they were telling me they've got I don't know, Nexus router, whatever it might be, and they were looking at the box, and they couldn't find from the box that it was quote unquote an AC router. Is there something on the back of the router?
On the front of the box on the bottom, I actually saw that one earlier. It usually has the letters before some numbers on the box, so they make N routers, B routers, all different kinds. If you're going to purchase one and you go to one of the retail stores, you can just tell them you want an AC type router and they'll show you where it says that.
So that number, would that be on the router itself, that whole number, B, whatever it might be, or N?
Some of them have it. Usually, if you have one at home and you're not sure what type it is, you could usually just Google the model and the serial number and it'll come up and tell you what kind it is.
Okay, so keep that in mind. It needs to be an AC router for the internet service.
Right, if you're going to purchase one, we suggest getting an AC. If you have an older router that's not a combo, most likely it'll still work and the technician will hook that up for you.
I've heard from some of our Canadian owners that Summit Broadband is asking for a social security number. And obviously Canadian citizens don't have social security numbers. So in the event, keep this in mind, in the event that you need additional equipment beyond the bulk, okay, that is the purpose of the social security number. So, but if you're a Canadian resident and you don't need, you're just going to get basically the bulk, there is no number that is needed whatsoever. But I understand that if you are a Canadian citizen because you don't have a social security number and you want additional extra equipment, that Summit might be looking for a deposit on an account?
That's correct. If you need any boxes over what's included in the bulk for your cable, we're not talking about routers or telephone service. If you need any additional boxes such as another HD box or a DVR, we would require either a social security number or a $150 deposit.
Okay.
My team will be contacting the residents prior to their installation to obtain either one or the other. If we don't have either the social security number or the deposit before the installation, we can only install the basic box that's included.
Okay, very good. So, so how would it work with residents that for whatever reason just aren't going to be available to set up a private appointment in the month of March, and they can't do it till May, for example? So how would that process work?
Well, that would be unique to each resident. The first is if they're here and just don't want an appointment until, say, May, they can leave everything as is. Their Comcast will stay working. However, because the bulk contract expired, Comcast will continue to bill them for their current services. However, it will be at an escalated rate to keep using their services. They won't shut it off. Comcast will be happy to keep billing you for it.
So not that we've looked into it here from the Master Association, but you're saying that because historically that's exactly how Comcast has operated after the bulk has ended in communities that you've done, that you've taken over.
Correct.
They just automatically basically open up a private account for you, and here's your bill. Move on.
Right, the residents can call Comcast and explain that the bulk contract is expiring and ask what their bill is going to be increased to, and they'll tell them.
So with that being said, if they're not available for a couple of months, whatever it might be, and could they also call Comcast and say the bulk is over, and I haven't gone live with Summit, and could they request, because obviously they're not here, so they don't need any they don't need any TV services, and they don't need any internet services. Are you aware of the fact that Comcast would then cease and not send them a signal?
Yeah.
You know?
They can actually cancel their account and return their equipment before they leave. One important thing to remember there is if they have a phone number and cancel their service, they've just lost their phone number.
Okay.
So if they have a phone, you would want to keep it on vacation hold while you're gone until you come back. If you do decide that you're leaving, you're not going to be back till, say, November, you're canceling your service with Comcast, you don't have phone, you're returning your boxes, you'll deal with it when you get back. What we suggest is as soon as you know what date you're coming back, book your appointment for next December, January, because now we're in the height of next season and you want to make sure that when you come back, you can have an installation because you are coming back to a home that is not going to have any cable or internet services.
Right. So the link that we have for the scheduling, does that link go out many months?
That link will go out currently right now. We have the next 3 months open, but we will open it all the way up through next season so that we can capture everybody.
Okay. So Janine, you've probably done now 7, 8, 9 community association kind of town hall meetings. Can you kind of describe some of the overall general questions that people are kind of confused on that you might be able to share with us?
Sure. Usually the one question we always get is around the Comcast email addresses. So if you have a Comcast email address that ends in @comcast.net, previously if you stopped paying Comcast, meaning you don't have a home in another state, Comcast would take your email address away. It would be disconnected and no longer work. What we've seen over the last couple of properties we've done is Comcast has sent some of the residents emails that said, hey, you're leaving us, but you can still keep your email address active. We suggest that all residents who are using an email address from a carrier or cable company like Comcast to switch their email over to Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, whatever they're comfortable with, just to ensure that you no longer have service with Comcast and you want to make sure that you're not losing your email address. If you do have Comcast for a home up north or somewhere else, you're still paying Comcast, so you can keep your email address. If you're not sure what to do or you have questions, I would suggest that the residents give Comcast a call and just to make sure that their email address isn't going to be lost.
So if somebody decided to keep their Comcast email address and kind of roll the dice, for lack of a better word, would they be billed from Comcast?
I haven't heard that Comcast bills anybody for email addresses. I know that there is a type of email service you can get from them that I believe they bill on. So I'm not sure about that. I would have the residents check.
I bring that up because if Comcast isn't billing you for a service they're providing, they're going to drop you. If they can't find a way to bill you.
That's why we kind of give everybody the heads up. I mean, or if Comcast should ever change their name, they're going to change all their email addresses and you'd have to change it anyway.
Right.
So it's something to keep in mind to
Right.
start doing slowly. And a lot of the Gmail, I know, for example, is we've had many residents say they thought it was going to be a nightmare and traumatic to switch, and it was really easy, and they have forwarding service and really make the transition easy for the residents.
Right. Okay. All right. Very good. Any other global questions that you can think of that the members have been asking?
What's included, obviously for your cable service, everybody does get the one box that's included.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give you access to all the basic channels, the HD gateway channels, the music and talk, pay-per-view and on-demand. Any of the other TVs, because we broadcast in True Digital, if they're newer flat screen TVs, we can connect them directly to the coax, to the wall, and you'll get all the basic channels without needing a box. So right now, the residents may have those little Comcast boxes. We don't need those because we broadcast in True Digital. So those boxes would get returned. With those boxes going back, so does the Comcast remote. So the residents who are going to choose to not get a box and just get all the basic channels, they'd need to find the original remotes for their TVs because they'd be left without a remote. And for the residents who can't find their remotes, no worries, you can always go and get a little universal and that'll work perfectly.
Okay, all right, very good.
The internet service, as we discussed, is a really fast speed. It's 100, up to 100 by 100, up and down. That speed would obviously be measured if you did a speed test. Hardwired, meaning you took your laptop and physically connected in to the ONT box where the fiber comes in. That would give you the fastest speed. Obviously, if you're using wireless or wireless router, your speeds are going to be a little bit slower. We say your speeds are only as fast as your slowest device, so you might see a little bit slow there, but that's a really, really fast speed. We do offer upgraded speeds over that, all the way up to 1,000 megabits. Each unit or each address in Royal Wood will have its own dedicated fiber. It's no longer a shared network. It doesn't matter how many people are on Netflix near you or the amount of usage in the afternoons or early evenings. Every single person can go all the way up to 1,000 megabits with their internet speeds, and you can increase them just by giving us a phone call. So it's
Okay.
really fast. And we touched upon the wireless routers. You do need a wireless router if you want wireless service in your home. You could go to the store and purchase an AC type router. You can rent one from Summit for $9.99 a month. We'd be happy to get that all set up. We do remind the residents that when the technician's coming into your home, leave out on the table any of your iPhones, iPads, laptops, phones so that they can make sure they're all connected. If you have a wireless printer, you must tell the technician because he needs to set that up on the new network. If the technician leaves and you forget, pretty sure your wireless printer is not going to work and we're going to need to send the technician back in there. So that's important to leave out. Most importantly, with our phone service, Summit does own its own phone switch, so we are more like a true landline company. We do have 3 different phone packages. All of our phone service comes with voicemail and all the features, call waiting, call forwarding, a bunch of those. You can move your phone service over for that. We do have vacation holds available, so anything that Summit is sending you a bill for, you can put on vacation hold. Obviously, your internet and your cable, that one box, is through the association, so you wouldn't want to put that on hold because you're paying for it every month anyway. We do have all that additional pricing. We have any additional channels you may want, HBO, Showtime, some additional channel packages available. Those are all month to month as well. It is very important that once the technician shakes your hand at the end of that install and walks out your door, that's when you call Comcast and/or CenturyLink and cancel your services with them. You definitely do not want to call your carriers prior to them being installed. Even if you're trying to be proactive and you have a CenturyLink account, you don't want to call them and say, I know I'm getting installed on the 15th, let me have them cancel on the 17th, I'll be safe.
Sure.
You're the owner of that account, they're going to do what you want over what I want. So they're not going to give me your phone number on the 15th and they're going to shut it on the day you told them. So don't try to be proactive and give them a heads up and give them a date to turn it off. Just wait till the technician leaves your home. You know everything's in and working. We say that if it's working before the technician walks in, it will be working before he leaves.
Okay.
And they will leave you a welcome pack that includes some channel lineups, some information on your phone, some information on your remote, little quick
Tutorial.
things like that, and it'll have our contact information for you to get in touch with us.
So the Summit Broadband will be offering a dedicated customer service rep when, so we're now a couple of weeks after quote unquote the install and the transition. Will Summit then notify us that says, okay, all calls from Royalwood need to go to the customer service rep versus the launch team, for example?
Right. The main number, our 239-444-0400 number, goes to our call center that is in Orlando. The launch team email address, the launch at summit-broadband.com, that's at the bottom of all these forms, that goes directly to the launch team, which that's reached by my team and myself, so I can make sure that all the emails are being responded to in a timely fashion. The launch team will stay with Royalwood until we get about 90% of the residents switched over. Once that happens, I will come meet with you again. I will introduce a property liaison who will stay with the property for the length of the contract. So that liaison will work only with the board and the property managers as an escalation. So if there's a couple people in a unit who are out or in a building, they would want to give their liaison a call to say, I think we have a problem in this building. Or if you have a resident that has a consistent problem that we can't get resolved, that's when you'd speak to your property liaison. So we would have another meeting to introduce them, and then I would step away from the property.
So in recap, so the schedule is out now, you can start booking appointments. So if you have an appointment on March 4th and your neighbor has an appointment on March 19th, on March 4th, that unit owner is going to start to receive the Summit broadband feed.
Correct.
The neighbor next door could very well be still receiving the Comcast feed.
Absolutely.
Because that install has not occurred. So just to let you know, at midnight on April 1st, it's not all of a sudden there's going to be a big switch and Summit broadband is going to be on. So I want everybody to know that. Another question I just thought of, in the condo associations, there's a belief that the unit owners in the first, second, and third floor, okay, they all need to coordinate being home at the same time so the line can be fed up the conduits.
Right. If we had to coordinate with all of the residents in the stacks, we would be doing this project for the next 6 years.
Right.
To coordinate 3 people being home on the same day probably would take me 2 weeks, and then our construction team might get hung up on another building, and that just threw off my entire schedule. So that's why we really work with the property managers to let us into any units that the residents aren't here for.
Okay. So the attempt by Summit is obviously to do that because it takes less time, but that's all being coordinated by the individual associations. That's not an appointment that needs to be made. You need to have one appointment made, and that's for the final install. So, any other things you can think of, Janine?
Just to piggyback on what you just said, everybody stays on their Comcast service. It'll be working up until the point the technician comes in and switches you over. Obviously, if you have an appointment on March 4th, if you're taking phone service, for example, Summit will start billing you for that service from the date that everything's active. You definitely want to make sure that you are calling your previous carriers and disconnecting any services with them so you're not paying for 2 different services twice. Again, all we need from every resident is this form back. Even if you're just taking what's included in the bulk, we do need the form because the included box and the O&T that's housing where the fiber comes into does have serial numbers on it. So if there's an issue with your service, we definitely need an account for you.
So, and obviously, those numbers are unknown, so Summit Broadband will then go to quote-unquote the activation form, or whatever it might be. They can look it up on the account and then add whatever serial numbers and et cetera, so they can identify the equipment.
Right, and that would be done at time of installation. So if
Okay.
you're only taking the bulk and never want to see a bill from Summit Broadband, you will need to fill out a form, you'll need to make an appointment, have the technician come in, just put the one box in, set up your internet. If you're using your own router, they'll set that up, and you're done.
Right.
An important note to go back to the routers, if you do go and purchase your own AC type router, the technician will definitely work with you to set it up, but you do need to take it out of the box and download any software that might come with it to your personal laptop. The technicians are not authorized to download any software into your personal computer so that there's no viruses or anything like that.
So explain that a little bit more. So you're going to go buy a new router, then you need to go ahead and activate it, or
Right, when you take the router out of the box, it'll usually have a website for you to go on to download some software or if there's any firmware updates,
Okay.
and it'll ask you to assign a username and password. So you would set that up yourself, then when the technician comes, he would just set it up to your network and make sure everything's connecting to your new
Okay.
device.
So it basically, by the time Summit comes in to do the install, the router, quote unquote, and I'm making up this own word, is pre-activated.
Correct.
Okay, and everything's all clean and ready to go on.
Right.
Okay.
Right, you can't just take it from the store in the little bag and just leave it on your dining room table and say, there you go.
Right. Okay.
That causes a little hiccup.
Well, I have children, so they must have done that because I'm clueless on how that.
Right, and if anybody's scared about a wireless router and I don't know how to do this, and you start to get crazy with questions, rent one from us. It includes maintenance, support, and replacement. Anything happens to it, we'll replace it. If you can't connect a device, you can call up. We can, see all the way through to the router, so
Right.
we can help.
Okay. All right, very good. That's all I have. In closing, remember, there's going to be a Summit representative here beginning this coming Tuesday. They'll be here Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to noon and 1 to 3. They will assist with filling out your activation form. They will be more than happy to assist with any a la carte services that you need. They'll assist with the television channels and basically be up in a situation to answer any questions that you need. So with that being said, thank you everyone. Thanks Janine very much for today's video.